we are working on, well, Oracle has always tried to meet customers where they are, and right now that means Kubernetes. So we are developing operators for Weblogic and for Coherence. And a Kubernetes operator is a thing that enables an enterprise piece of software to be installed and run on any Kubernetes cluster. You can see different repositories for these Kubernetes operators. And there's one, operatorhub.io, that is just new in the last couple weeks. So I expect it will be there as well because everyone else is there. And right now we have the WebLogic the WebLogic Kubernetes operator is open source on GitHub. So if you go to github.com/oracle/weblogic-operator, I believe, or it could be WebLogic Kubernetes operator. I'm not sure which it is. And then the Coherence one will be out on GitHub soon.
Okay, so when you say open source, so what does that mean? So what kind of
very good point.
Integration?
So both of the products, WebLogic and Coherence, are proprietary Oracle products.
Right.
In the case of WebLogic, it's built, of course, with open standards, and everyone knows all that, but the implementation is still proprietary. We're not changing that. Mm-hmm. The open source aspect of it is just the bits that enable those things to run in Kubernetes.
I see.
The challenge for Coherence is to adapt all of its notions of scalability and clustering to match or to be sort of in sync with what Kubernetes is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So the containers are able to communicate to Kubernetes their health and their runtime state and the amount of memory that they're consuming and such. And we also are using very popular technologies such as Prometheus and Grafana to provide monitoring and metrics. And then we have Elasticsearch, FluentD, and Kibana for doing your log scraping. So
okay.
These are standard ways that people do things nowadays. So bringing Coherence up to date with those techniques is an important thing.
So if somebody is not today, or their company is not working with those technologies, can you explain a little bit like what kind of use cases they?
Sure. So the garden variety Coherence use case is the data grid use case.
Mm-hmm.
And the most simple degenerate subcase of that is just using a cache. So Coherence can function quite well as a cache, and you can specify expiration strategies, and you are aware that anything you put in the cache is going to be replicated and fault tolerant, and any amount of multiple data center federation is able to be handled with Coherence.
Okay.
So the next level up, the next more interesting case is when you're actually using Coherence as a data grid. So you're doing calculations, you're doing things that you would do with a database in terms of row and column operations, but with a data grid you have a very natural programming API that's like a hash map, and you can provide different kind of server-side entry processors that manipulate the data so that when you run your query, essentially it happens on the server side and only the amount of data that you actually need to manipulate. So if you have millions and millions or even billions of rows or entries, you can still run efficient queries and they come back very fast.
Okay. And so a lot of people are also on older infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
and probably using web applications. So
Mm-hmm.
can you also explain like what's
Sure.
the difference and
so
how it's...
that's where the Coherence Web product comes in. And Coherence Web is basically a combination of WebLogic and Coherence together. And with this stack, you have the regular full WebLogic stack, and then you have very tight, nice integration with Coherence. So when you're building web applications that are running in WebLogic, you're also able to access the Coherence data grid for your state and persistence matters. So instead of using something like JPA and having all of that persisted through an object relational mapping layer, you can have direct connection through Coherence, because it's a very natural, as I said before, a natural programming API. You don't need to know SQL, it's just regular Java.
Cool. And is it like on-premise, in the cloud?
Okay, well that's the nice thing about with Kubernetes, because wherever you have that, whether it's in your on-premise thing or in Oracle Public Cloud or any other vendor's cloud, you're able to run Coherence in that situation.
Okay.
So that's why it's important for us to be able to have the product be able to be delivered where people want to use it. Because let's face it, when you look at Kubernetes, it's basically runtime environment for enterprise applications, and that's what WebLogic, that's what app servers are as well.
Cool. Okay. And how can we find more information about all of this? So, I mean, I'm guessing WebLogic and Coherence have like their own website already?
Both of them, well, I would recommend for this effort, to, when you're looking strictly into the Kubernetes operators, to go to the GitHub projects for that.
Cool.
So all of these are inside the Oracle area inside of GitHub.
Cool.
So github.com/Oracle, and there's a big registry of projects in there, and you can search in there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
Thanks
the information. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.